Wake up, Rip City, because there are brighter days ahead. The Blazers have lost 5 games in a row. I'm not crying. You're crying, Jay Gliss, but we're here to talk about some fun news that's been going around the association involving the Trailblazers, and so we're looking at some hopefully some brighter days ahead. But man, it's been rough to watch the Blazers the last 5 games. So of course we'll talk about the losing streak, the injury problems, but also some players maybe coming back this week, Jay Gliss. This is the Wake Up Rip City podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Moore. Alongside me, it's Jay Gliss. Today on the show, like I said, we'll talk about that losing streak. We'll talk about a player coming back, hopefully this week, and super excited to see him. He turned 22 today. His birthday is today, Gliss. And then we'll also talk about those trade rumors. Gliss has been texting me. He's texting me. He's sending me trades that he wants, and so we'll talk about all of that on the show. But Gliss, rough stretch. It's been tough. But we're always positive here on the show. We always start off positive. So how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a tough stretch here, but you know, there's. I was just saying to you before we started, this is where it kind of gets real in the NBA season. I feel like the All-Star break that's coming up here is kind of the turning point to when you make that stretch run to try to be a playoff team. And, you know, they haven't played well as of late. Deni's had some, injury concerns, obviously, the last couple of weeks. So when your best player is kind of in and out of the lineup, that's a problem. But there's still some positives to take away. I love the trade that they pulled off the other day. And we'll see if they do anything else the next couple days. But there's still plenty of basketball left. So I mean, I'm not panicking or anything like that.
Okay, that's good. I've felt the panic start to come in a little bit. I'm starting to feel the anxiety. I'm like, what's going on? 5 in a row? What? Like, you'd hope they would at least won a couple of these games. I know it's been not the easiest stretch of basketball, but you would hope they would have taken one of these games. And then Gliss and I were talking before the show about kind of Donovan Clingan and what's going on with him. We saw some struggles. Obviously, Jared Allen scores 40 points on the Blazers very easily, concerningly easily. And, we were kind of trying to break it down exactly. Was that Clingan's fault or not? Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But the good news this week, Gliss, Scoot Henderson has been officially upgraded to doubtful for the game tonight. Of course, the Blazers take on the Suns tonight. Man, he's probably not going to play, but after a long time waiting, we will most likely see the season debut of Scoot Henderson this week. The Blazers take on the Grizzlies twice at the end of the week. I'm assuming it'll be in that stretch. Awesome to get Scoot back, and his 22nd birthday today. Happy birthday, Scoot. I see so much negativity about Scoot online, and I know that he didn't get off to the start that a lot of people expected him to in his NBA career, and he's had some rough moments. But the guy was balling at moments last year, and he had an injury. It happens. There's nothing you can do about it. We've seen how bad hamstring injuries have really derailed seasons this year for Aaron Gordon, Jalen Green, who plays on the Suns, who the Blazers play tonight, have both had setbacks from coming back from hamstring injuries too early. So it's hard to give Scoot a hard time for, a rough injury, and the Blazers have been cautious with it. So it's good to see him back, but he turned 22 today. How can you just throw out a player's career, which I've seen a lot of people do, for a guy who's 22 years old? He is the same age as Damian Lillard during his rookie season. Come on, like, what's going on? Give this guy a break. I'm so excited to see him out on the court. He's electric with the basketball. He's so fun, and he's exactly kind of what this team needs. And all of a sudden, the Blazers this week adding 2 ball handlers in Vit Krejci as well. I mean, 5 in a row losses sucks, but there's some exciting things happening, Gliss.
He has been one of the kind of pillars of this whole rebuild. So it's been frustrating at times from my point of view, just kind of being in the dark. I feel like we haven't had a lot of intel on where he was at, and that was very concerning. But to hear that he's getting back to basketball activity, and it seems like him making a return is very close at this point. So that's pretty exciting news because he's a big part of what they've been trying to build here. So like you said, to have another point guard out there, I think it's going to make a big difference. And we'll see what he can with this group. Just how competitive they've been throughout the season. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of falls into place with this roster. So I'm excited for it for sure.
And now you're looking at kind of a really stacked bench off the bench unit for this team. I mean, you have to envision Scoot will be coming off the bench to start, probably on a minutes restriction, and you add him to the fold. You add Vit Krejci to the fold. The Blazers obviously have gotten a lot of guys back, and all of a sudden this bench lineup is kind of electric, and it'll be fun to watch. And of course, Krejci is 6'8", so it has the bench unit will have some height as well, and they're going to be fun, and they're going to get after it. And hopefully we're looking at guys like Matisse Thybulle coming back as well. And yeah, it's exciting. I think the roster, you can see the vision in the roster, and you always have been able to, but now you can really see it, and it really seems that it's paying off. And the Blazers, of course, have fallen to that 10th spot in the West as the Clippers are past them, but they're involved in trade rumors too. So who knows what their roster is going to look like in a few days? But you can see the vision. You can see the vision. The Blazers are where we thought they would be. We've kind of our expectations have changed this season because they've had so much success, but have had periods of success, but they're right where they need to be. So, Gliss, let's talk about Klingon, because it's hard for me. I was at the Cavs game, which, yeah, if you're keeping track, I'm now 1-4 in 5 Blazers games this season. I don't know what's going on, Gliss. I don't know what I need to do differently, but it might be me. I don't get you're at the game, you don't get to hear the commentary, which is, really breaking down the basketball and stuff like that, which is an interesting experience, because then all of a sudden you have to be like, what's going on? And you have to come up with your own thoughts and trying to figure out exactly what it is. And I just saw breakdown after breakdown defensively of Jared Allen just getting open shots at the rim, wide open. And to me, it felt like there were no defensive adjustments. I could not figure out what was happening. It felt like when Jared Allen left the game, the Blazers always kind of went on a little run, because the Cavs couldn't really kind of, figure out any kind of other offense. I mean, the guy had 40 points. And it's just, I was trying to figure out, is this Klingon's fault? Is Klingon taking on too much defensively, and he's trying to guard too many guys at once, and then he's leaving Allen open? Like, what is going on in the spacing with this? Like, I couldn't figure it out, because... And I think this is also an overarching issue, Gliss, because we thought this team defensively was going to be top of the league when the season, started. And I have seen at times where the defensive structure just hasn't been as strong as we've expected it to be in the past. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on Klingon defensively, and what do you see kind of going on out there? Like what whose responsibility is it? Should we blame Klingon, or should this be on the whole team?
Yeah, it did seem like maybe that was a bad matchup. I was telling you right before we hopped on, because like you said, you're at the game. You don't get the insight that the TV broadcast is kind of putting out there. And I think we both respect Lamar Hurd and what his insight on the game. And he pointed it out. I believe it was early in the second quarter, when he was approaching 20 points already, And he was like, yeah, they're going to have to make an adjustment here. And they did, right after he said that, they did bring in Robert Williams. But it did feel like, once he got rolling, he was just getting too many easy shots at the rim. I mean, like you said, it felt seamless and easy. He had 25 points and 10 rebounds at the half, which is like, I mean, that's a good game, like right there. He could have sat the rest of the game, and that was a solid stat line. I don't know, that it was a little concerning, but I'm going to chalk it up to maybe it was just a bad matchup. I think that happens sometimes in the NBA. If you've played any basketball, sometimes there's just guys that give you problems, and I think I'm hoping that's what it is, because Klingen's been solid for the most part defensively throughout most of the season, and he's kind of he's been the guy that's kind of held down the paint for the Blazers for the most part. So I'm not necessarily gonna look too much into it. Jared Allen had a great game. Maybe it was a matchup issue, so it is what it is. I think you just move on. If you start to see that kind of be a trend, then I'm going to be a little concerned and be like, kind of, what the hell's going on here? But I think for now, you just kind of take it for what it is, and he had a good game. It was possibly a bad matchup for Klingen, and you just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, and I guess what was more concerning for me is Klingen has struggled with bigs that can really stretch the floor.
Yeah.
Like Alex Sarr was the example
sure.
I brought up too.
Yeah.
Like Alex Sarr was getting wide open looks, and like for me, like of course you don't want to give a good 3-point shooter wide open looks, but I understand it a little bit more from Klingen because he loves to protect the paint, obviously, and that's one of his strengths. And so like, okay, that one makes a little bit more sense. Obviously, still sucks when the Blazers lose to the Wizards, but like, okay. But then when it's a guy who kind of is going to only really make his money down low, I'm like, okay, why are they letting this guy beat them time after time after time? It just wasn't making sense. Pop in the comments if you notice anything in the Blazers scheme as to why Jared Allen scored 40 points, because it was absolutely ridiculous to see that. And the Blazers should be hanging their hat on defense, and that should absolutely not happen. And whether or not it's the coaching staff needs to make adjustments, or I don't know, maybe I don't know what it is, Gliss. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. Let's talk about something exciting like potential trades. So the Blazers have been all over the news in like NBA news because, of course, of this Giannis speculation. Where's Giannis going to go? So many teams are getting involved. Of course, the Knicks are the big name. The Heat are involved as well. And then Minnesota's jumped in the mix. But there's been a fourth team that has been involved in the Giannis speculation, and that's the Blazers. Now, the Blazers own 3 of Milwaukee's picks in 2028, 2029, and 2030. And if I get any of the picks and trade stuff wrong, please let me know in the comments. I get confused with all this stuff, but I try to keep it as straight as I can. So the Blazers own those picks. And basically, the Blazers could help facilitate a Giannis deal. They could be involved in a Giannis deal. And so this is all happening. And then Jake Fisher reports that Damian Lillard, behind the scenes, has been trying to get Giannis to come to Portland. It's like, okay, that's kind of big news, right? I mean, if Dame's actually like trying to make it happen, if there was a chance of it actually coming to fruition, you would think that Dame being involved would be a big part of it. So we get that report. I'm like, oh shit, this is real. This is real. This is actually like, this is potentially happening. And then we get a second report. Giannis doesn't want to come here. Oh, I'm shocked by this. Giannis has no interest in coming to Blazers, even though Dame, Drew Holiday's here, all that stuff. Blazers have a really good core for a potential Giannis trade. But, okay, with all that said, there's basically 2 camps of Blazers fans, and there's probably 2 camps of NBA fans in general if your team has a chance to trade for Giannis, and that is, yes, I want him. Let's take a chance. Let's win a title in the next year or 2. And the other camp is, he's old, he's injured, he never plays. Tall guys at that age really start to decline very quickly usually. Don't want anything to do with him. Don't want to give up draft capital for him. Don't want to give up things for him. Don't want to give up the Bucks picks for him. So those are kind of the two camps. I don't know where you're at on this, Gliss. I can see both sides, and I'm like trying to have like a take on it, and I'm like, if the trade happened, I would not be upset about it, but I would like be reading everything the Blazers gave up, and I'd be like, okay, let's go. This is the Blazers' best chance to win a title since 2019, and I mean, let's be honest, even 2019 after the run. I mean, were we ever considering them really being a title team at any point during that season before the run? Probably not.
Yeah. Warriors were
then
too good.
All of a sudden you have a title contending team. But those Bucks picks, man, and this is what I was talking to Gliss about. If Giannis leaves the Bucks, the value of those Bucks picks goes up so much. It's just difficult to part ways with those. So I'll leave it to you, Gliss. Where's your take? Please tell me you have a better take than I do, because I just can't wrap my head around this.
I'm probably leaning towards the latter of the two sides that you set up. In terms of Giannis coming to Portland, I don't think it's super realistic necessarily, and I also don't think that would be my preference. I'm kind of with you. Like, if it happened, it's kind of like, all right, like, we got one of the best players in the league. It's a short window, but they would definitely have opened a window into being a contender if he can stay healthy. But yeah, I think I think where I'm at is I think I'd love to see the Blazers get involved in a Giannis deal, but I think I'd rather see them be a facilitator, kind of a third team in the deal where they could get some. And the trade that I sent you yesterday, I can't remember. It might have been. I think it was maybe ESPN, but they were throwing out some basically like some of the most likely trades for Giannis. The Warriors were in the mix, the Timberwolves, a couple other teams. But to me, that deal is like, I'd do it. Like, yeah, those picks are valuable, but I think I said this when we recorded it on Sunday. When you're doing a rebuild, like, part of the thing about acquiring assets, like, this is why you acquire assets. Like, 2029, that's 4 years away. Like, I would be hoping that next year through 2030. What's that?
It's 3 years, boy.
Oh, yeah. Whatever. Math. I'm terrible at math. So. Let's just say if we're looking at like a 5-year window, I don't want the Blazers to be necessarily relying on picks in 3 years. Like, we've been through the rebuilds. I feel like this is the time where you kind of take that next step and elevate, like we've been talking about this year, where now they're a competitive basketball team, and in the next year or two, you make that jump to being truly competitive, like in a much more real sense, to have a chance to make deep playoff runs and potentially win a title. So that's kind of when I look at a rebuild, like, that's kind of how I look at things, is like they're in the next phase of that. Like, the rebuild is kind of over. They've stacked a lot of those assets, and so now you're trying to put yourself in a position to actually be competitive in a more legit way. So, like, I don't necessarily value those picks from the Blazers' perspective. I look at them more as like assets, as like, okay, what can we use these picks on? Like, how do we make this team a title contender? So that's why I sent you that trade. Like, if they could pull off a deal like that where they get back Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges, like, that's the kind of deal I want to do. And I don't like.
Yeah.
I will say, like, Karl Anthony Towns is not like. I'm not in love with him. I think he's a great player. This has been kind of a down year for him with the Knicks, and I know that there's been some rumblings that he's maybe a little unhappy that they didn't extend him and stuff like that. But to me, this is like where you pull the trigger, and I think the Blazers, as a Blazer fan too, I think it's almost like trauma. Like, we've been in this position so many times, whether you go back to like CJ or even guys like Travis Outlaw, guys that had value, and then they just never pull the trigger, and it's like, whoa, they were asking for this guy. And then you look back and you're like, man, like, we could have got like a legit like borderline all-star, or someone that really made a difference, that improved that roster, and we held on to him because they just didn't want to part ways with a guy that was a role player. So to me, I'm hoping that Joe Cronin is going to be aggressive, and he's going to look at this and pull the trigger on something if there's a good deal. I don't want him to do it just to do it, but I would love to see them get involved in the Giannis deal where they could bring back some legit talent to help them be competitive in the next couple years.
Yeah, you bring up some great points, Gliss. And I agree with a lot of what you said. Yeah, Bridges, we both like Bridges. I like Cat too. I mean, even though he's had his struggles and has had some moments that aren't the most favorable, but in the trade that you had sent to me, the Blazers basically give up 2 of those first round picks that the Bucks have and help facilitate Giannis to the Knicks. They also give up, I think, Jeremy Grant, Drew Holiday in that deal, and they get back Towns, Bridges, and McBride from the Knicks too. He's also
a good player. Yeah.
So you get 3 rotation players, 2 all-star level players back, and you keep most of your Blazers, the Blazers' current core. Talk about Deni, Sharp, Klingon. So
you're basically giving up the 2 bad contracts. I mean, and then the draft capital. I agree with you, is the harder pill to swallow, but
yeah. And you're selling me, Gliss. I mean, would I be upset if that trade happened? I don't. No, not at all. I'd be ecstatic. Now, adding those players, does this Blazers team become a contender in the West? I think maybe borderline, but I don't know. The West is so stacked that I don't know if those players move the needle enough. But then you go into next season, you go into seasons before, where it's like, no, this isn't a play-in team anymore. The expectation is this is a playoff team, a team probably battling for home court advantage.
With a healthy Dame, for next season, I think it's a game changer.
Yeah, and it absolutely would be. Where I would fight back a little, Gliss, and my concern is, you're right. Holding on to those picks just because you want to keep them because of their high value isn't necessarily, always the right move. But what I will say is, you hang on to them because maybe there's an all-star, a superstar that is disgruntled in a couple years or next year. And there's someone else that you could use those picks and use their value to get. So I think that's the other side of this coin. That's the other game that you play, because once Giannis leaves the Bucks, like I said, the value of those picks is just like what are the Bucks going to do without Giannis? Like they are not going to be a good team. It's obviously depends on what they get back in the trade, and then how they do in upcoming drafts. And I don't know what picks they even have. But you would expect that team to be bottom of the barrel.
They would be kind of like where the Blazers were when they traded Dame. Like they would be going full blow it up mode.
They're bad right now. They're not good. I don't think they're in the East playoff picture. I haven't looked at the East standings in a bit, but they're not top of the East. So Yeah, it's a tough call. I think if Cronin sees the right move to be made, he'll make it. The NBA trade deadline is this Thursday, Gliss. I can't believe it's already here. Like I'm like, man, we gotta get moving. Like, there hasn't really been any big deals made yet. So we'll see kind of what happens. But there's a lot of smoke right now. So yeah, it's a fun time. And I think we'll have to do an emergency pod, Gliss, depending on what happens at the trade deadline and kind of reacting to that. So we'll plan for that. So, Gliss, I think that's all I got. Blazers Suns tonight. Hopefully they can get back in the winning column. It'll be another tough one. The Suns have been awesome this season, so another tough one. Yeah. But hopefully they get back in the win column, and then they take on the Grizzlies 2 games in a row to kind of close out this week. So trade deadline on Thursday. We'll see what happens. This has been the Wake Up RipCity podcast. Please comment, like the video, subscribe if you enjoying the videos and enjoy watching and listening. That helps us keep going here. So we really appreciate all the love, and we'll see you later this week.